Let's talk about the fossil record. I want to show you how it doesn't say what most people think it says.
I know the first question that comes to mind. Doesn't the fossil record prove evolution? I mean, that's what we're all taught, right? But what if the fossils themselves tell a completely different story?
You see, there's a part of the story they don't really mention, a critical piece of the puzzle that often gets glossed over, but it presents a huge problem for the standard narrative.
And look, before we get into it, I want to make something really clear. I'm going to grant them everything. Okay, for the sake of this, I'll use their timeline, their assumptions, their rules. We're going to play this game entirely on their field. Because even when you play by their rules, the whole thing just doesn't add up.
So the theory says that life developed slowly, right? From very simple beginnings to more and more complex creatures, with all these transitional fossils in between showing the changes. That's the idea. But is that what we actually find?
Nope, that is not what we find. Not even close. Instead, something way more dramatic happens in what is basically a geological blink of an eye.
To really help you get a picture of this, I want you to imagine something with me. I call it the 85-yard walk.
So just imagine you are standing at the goal line of a 100-yard football field. That entire field in front of you represents the whole history of life on Earth. And we're going to walk it from one end to the other and see what the fossil record shows us.
All right, so you start walking, you cross the 10-yard line, the 20, you pass midfield at the 50, you keep going 60, 70, 80 yards. For almost the entire length of the field, for 85 yards. What do we see in the rocks? Almost nothing. Just some simple single-celled organisms, like bacteria and algae. That's it, for an incredibly long time.
But then, just as you get to the other 15-yard line, everything changes. Out of nowhere, boom, a biological Big Bang.
Suddenly, the fossil record just explodes. I mean, it is packed with all sorts of complex animals. And we're not talking about simple worms here. We're talking about clams and snails, starfish, shrimp, creatures with eyes, legs, shells, even brains. They all just appear, fully formed, with absolutely no ancestors in the layers of rock before there.
So you got to ask yourself, right? After an 85-yard walk of pretty much nothing, where did all of this come from? The rocks are just silent.
The sheer scale of this event, what scientists call the Cambrian explosion, is just staggering. But to really get it, let's just zoom in and look at one of these creatures that showed up in that biological Big Bang.
I want to talk about the trilobite. It's one of the most common fossils from this period, and man, does it tell an amazing story.
So the trilobite appears in the fossil record with one of the most incredible vision systems ever known. It has these amazing compound eyes with hundreds of tiny lenses made of pure crystal. And again, they appear fully formed, perfect, right from the start. There's no evidence of a simpler eye that it came from.
And get this, the design of this eye is so genius that modern optical engineers are actually studying them today to try and improve our own cameras. We're literally learning from a creature that was supposedly one of the first complex animals. It's wild.
This whole problem, this sudden appearance of complexity, it isn't a new discovery. In fact, the most famous evolutionist of all time knew it was a huge problem for his theory.
Charles Darwin himself, he wrote about it in his book On the Origin of Species. He admitted that this sudden explosion of life was a serious issue. He said, and I'm quoting him here, that the case could be truly urged as a valid argument against his entire theory. He knew it didn't fit.
Now, Darwin hoped that one day we'd find all the missing fossils that would fill in these gaps. But here we are, over 160 years and millions of fossils later, and the gaps are bigger than ever. The ancestors he hoped for, they've never been found.
So, what does all this mean? I mean, when you take off the philosophical blinders for a second and just look at the evidence, what is it screaming at us?
Well, for me, this isn't about science contradicting the Bible. Not at all. It's actually the opposite. It seems like science is finally catching up to what Scripture has been saying all along.
This all points back to what the Apostle Paul wrote in the book of Romans. He said that God's eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen right from the beginning, just by looking at what has been made. From that explosion of life to the incredible eye of the trilobite, you see the signature of a designer.
The evidence is there. It's speaking loud and clear. So the only question that's really left is, are you willing to hear it?